Hey everybody, time for another video. I had to take notes on this one because this one's a little more difficult for me to pull off. But I wanted to kind of share with everybody something that I think is important for people to know, to understand, like how I am driven to get involved with chemical dependency treatment and those sorts of things. And the reason is because I have a problem. I hate it. It's been extremely difficult to control. It's threatened my marriage. It's threatened my job. It's threatened relationships with coworkers, friends, family. It's been a real problem. And obviously I find it difficult to control and have said to myself so many times, I'm never going to do it again. And then sure enough, there I am again, doing it again. And while it isn't chemical dependency, it's anger management. I find myself raging, losing control, screaming at the top of my lungs for nothing. And I've sought help for it, and over and over again, and apologized for it over and over again, and have spent a lot of time, thinking about it, and luckily enough have met with some really helpful people who have helped me understand it and break it down, and I think that I'm making progress, which is good. I'm not perfect. And the reason I'm talking about this is because this week I had a relapse, and it was painful. And I know that a lot of my patients, of course, this is a hard time, loss of work, stress, whatever, so people are struggling. And so I just wanted to kind of draw some parallels between my experience and with the experience of my patients who might be struggling with chemical dependency. So, there are a lot of similarities, so when people talk about, how they, just feel hopeless, or their whole struggle with chemical dependency. One of my patients told me that he was scared to get off of probation because he knew that he couldn't trust himself. And another patient told me that, the first thing when he started to relapse is he started to notice he couldn't tell himself the truth. And I'm like, I've been there before. Well, it wasn't that bad, or, they deserved it, or, whatever it is that you rationalize so that, you don't have to drag yourself back to a meeting or to call the counselor or whatever, to really objectively and truthfully recognize just how much help you need. And I think that that's really what I wanted to share, that I told myself, and I told everybody around me 100 times, I'm sorry, I will never do it again. And sure enough, there I am doing it again. And I actually sought counseling a number of times. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear, or maybe I don't know, it wasn't the right person or whatever, but I finally met somebody who I think really helped me kind of break it down and help me understand why am I angry. And interestingly enough, one of the reasons he said that, one of the things he said that I needed to work on, at first I was like, no, that's definitely not it. And now this is a person who has years of experience, and he's like, no, you definitely need to work on that. And I'm like, no, I definitely don't. And, of course, he was right, and I didn't realize how much, that particular issue needed to be addressed. And I'll break that down in some other video for you guys. But, I think that it's important to recognize that in the best of circumstances, you have a great job, things are going great, you can't just snap your fingers and get yourself out of a habit. If you're like me and you feel raging and screaming and whatever feels great. You're letting that person know exactly what you want them to know, that, you're upset And now it's completely inappropriate, and it's extremely damaging to the relationship, and it's terrible. But in the moment, it feels like the right thing to do. And I have patience, a lot of patience. I'd say the majority of my patients, and even myself in times of my life, and probably the majority of the time, do not take the problem seriously enough and don't seek enough help. You know, I have yet to meet a patient who has been overtreated for chemical dependency. You know, generally it's, well, you know, I'm just gonna do the minimum necessary. Well, now that, I lost my job, well, now and so it's of course painful to see people who are struggling with a problem that they hate about themselves, they can't control, is threatening every aspect of their life, very similar to things that I've experienced, and yet, are not invested in a long-term solution to the problem. Sure, when my wife and I were getting along and the kids were behaving and, there wasn't stress at work or whatever, man, my anger problem wasn't a problem at all until it was, until something went wrong, and then bam, and I'm damn lucky to be still married and still have my job and what have you. And so, my wish is for my patients to recognize that we are all imperfect. We all have that skeleton in the closet. There's not a single person that I've met that is perfect and doesn't have something to work on. Now, those people who are struggling with chemical dependency, some of the problem is chemical dependency. Sometimes there's other things, there's anxiety. Sometimes there's other issues that need to be addressed that feed into that, and, that they want to get that chemical escape, that emotional relief by using a chemical. And so, you need to peel back those layers. What am I doing? Why do I want to shut it all off upstairs? And begin working on those things, hopefully with a professional that's trained. And that's really why it's important to see somebody who's a certified substance abuse counselor, a CSAC, is because they've received the appropriate training. A lot of them have a lot of experience with different people, different settings, but they can kind of figure out a stepwise approach that's going to get people where they want to go. So hopefully, the next time that we meet, and I'm like, you really need to engage in recovery. I don't know how many times I've written that down in my progress note. Patient not engaged in recovery. And I want my patients to do well, and I want them to come back and tell me, yeah, things are going great. I had this stressful event. I managed it well. I'm engaged in recovery. That's singing my song. Coming back and saying, well, nothing happened this month, so I guess I'm okay. That's great, but something is going to happen, and you can either prepare for it, or you can just wait and have life just knock you down, and then you gotta, after everything gets burnt down, or you break somebody's trust again, or whatever, you got to build it all back again, and you don't want that. I don't want that. So. Take-home message is, many times, even if you're an intelligent person, even if you're highly motivated, even if you think to yourself, I'm never going to do that again. You're convinced this behavior is wrong. I was wrong to do it. I'm never going to do it again. Man, a lot of times that is not enough. And seeking help and getting together with somebody who can guide you and can help you kind of peel back the layers and really understand fundamentally, how you make progress, as opposed to just hoping for the best. Hoping for the best is almost always not enough. And so hopefully, me hoping the best for you, that's good. You hoping the best for yourself is not enough. You have to be engaged in recovery. And so good luck out there. Engage in recovery. Don't wait for a disaster to recognize, all right, now I need help. Be honest with yourself, even though that's really hard, and be proactive. So that's my message for the day. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Have a good weekend.